How come we're the only ones on time? I'm working like full time. I just
I don't know, dude. Chris and Carl's got to get their shit together, dude.
And I'm actually in the middle of a job. I told him I was going away. I told him I'm going to the bathroom. I'll be back.
Wait, really?
No. We ended. That would be funny, right? Like,
yeah, dude. These guys, I don't know what's wrong with these. You got to scold them in the comments, guys, because these guys are just not on time.
They just don't take the pod seriously like I do.
I think that's the case. They just maybe we got to replace these two. Maybe. All right. So you're eating this weird thing for dinner. Just sharing it right now. Why are you eating an orange and Planters for
Go ahead. You got to, put it up.
What is this happening?
I actually did have an orange and Planters. Why am I doing that? Because I'm exercising a lot more and I'm trying to skip meals. So usually I'm trying to skip dinner, like a big dinner. So when I go to the gym, today I went to the gym. I actually had some time. I do my calisthenics, which is great. That's like the Chris Heria, ab workout, all that stuff. And then I hit the treadmill. I've actually expanded running on the treadmill even longer now. 15 minutes. It used to be 10. If anyone's following along on my journey that I don't post anywhere because I'm not a mitt taking pictures of the
hold on. You run for 15 minutes on the
15
treadmill?
minutes at 5.2, whatever that means. I'm not sure what that means. Maybe someone in the comments could explain what that means.
That's not impressive.
Whatever. I'm saying I exercise. Listen, the fact that I'm exercising, I'm proud of, but thank you for shitting on it. And I'm trying to skip meals. So dinner's usually a big meal. And I want to actually skip more dinners. So I've been eating basically oranges, like a fruit, and maybe some protein, I guess peanuts or something like that. Whatever I have around me. It's usually crafty, by the way. This is
breakfast. Why are you skipping dinner?
No, I actually like breakfast. I don't want to skip breakfast.
Okay. So
and I usually exercise at night. I don't exercise in the morning. I know you go at 5 o'clock to the gym. I just can't do that. I have to wake up and get ready for work. Like usually 6 a.m., 7 a.m. is call time. So I'm not going to no gym at like 5 or 4 in the morning.
So you value your breakfast time is what you're saying. Like you value your bacon or whatever you eat.
Yeah. Today was avocado toast. It was actually really good. 2 eggs over medium.
So you're a breakfast guy. You like breakfast.
I do like breakfast. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm willing to skip dinner. That's less important.
All right. Chris, Carlos, hello. What's up? How are you guys doing?
Dude, I got terrible freaking news.
We heard about Elon. Yeah.
No. I went to the doctors. I found out I'm on verge of pre-diabetic, man. It's
we're discussing exercise right now.
Yeah.
So wait, hold on. So you're at 5.6 on the levels, correct?
A little higher than that, but I have a meeting with my doctor tomorrow.
Oh no, so you're okay. So 5.7 is pre-diabetic.
Yeah. So I think it's a range. But this is the first time that the reading came in. So yeah, go ahead, Carlos.
Kevin James, that last comedy special I did, he did a whole bit on the idea of being pre-diabetic. And yes, you should take it seriously, but basically everyone's fucking pre-diabetic. So I would not let it freak you out. Just do what they say, change the diet, right? Get rid of the whatever drinks you're drinking and the sugary stuff, and start your exercise program. Just get healthy, man.
It really does. I have a combination of factors that are probably doing me in. Number one, both of my parents are diabetic. So genetically, I just have a predisposition to it. Indian food in general has a lot of you just gain a lot of visceral fat. And the thing is, I have not been working out nearly as much as I should. And I haven't been focusing on muscle building. I think that is a key problem because what tends to happen is as you develop muscle, that means that muscles have to be fed by those sugars. And so the sugar gets naturally cut out. And the last thing is working overnight. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to work overnight. I'm just bro, there's just too much stress between working overnight, then figuring out life is not built for people to work overnight and then live a normal, healthy lifestyle during the daytime. Because what ends up happening is, and I've discovered this, I would work 12 to 8, and I worked the graveyard shift. So work 12 to 8, and then during like the weekend, I have to be awake during the week because now, I mean the weekend, because now, you know, that's when all the shit happened. So like I was at a wedding, the entire wedding, I was like a fucking zombie because it's away from my normal sleep time.
It shows
so
you
my
that
wife's
Celsius doesn't fucking work. It doesn't.
no, the Celsius does work, but I'm just saying the problem is at nighttime when it's time to sleep. My wife's like, "Oh, why aren't you sleeping?" I'm like, my body's used to the 12 to 8 awake cycle. It's not just, oh, go to sleep like you can magically just, you know, fall asleep. It's much harder. And so once your body gets used to a certain routine, trying to deviate from it and then deviate back, deviate in, deviate back, it's not healthy. So
Dude, I struggled with that for 25 weeks. And then before that, I was on night sessions. Basically, all of last year was nights. And it took me about 3 weeks to recover. The weekends, trying to shift back to the weekends was really hard. But if it's getting to that point, you've got to either talk to your job. Maybe you do switch to days. But if not, then get that workout in. What I would do is I would work out when I got home. Because you're up, you're ready, you know what I mean? You're home at 8 o'clock, just go push the fucking weights around for 30 to 45, take a shower, and then go right to bed.
yeah.
What did the doctor say about it? What were their suggestions?
No, I'm meeting her tomorrow. We just did the labs yesterday. So I just went for my annual, and this year was just a little bit eye-opening. That's the other thing. I haven't got an annual in like 2 years. So this was like the first time in a while. So.
You didn't wait.
Right after COVID, they told me, I guess everybody ate at COVID, but they said the doctor said you have super high cholesterol. And then he started checking fatty liver and all that. He's like, "You're super close, dude." And I was like, "Oh shit, really?" Like, you know, because I never felt like I was getting bigger. You don't pay attention to it so much. And man, that's when I took it seriously. Like, I'm like, my parents had quadruple and triple bypass surgeries, heart attacks. I'm like, I have to take health a little bit more seriously. I'm not saying I don't eat good food, whatever. Desserts, but even now I was talking about earlier, skipping dinners, even 15 minutes of calisthenics, that's super helpful. It doesn't have to be like hours of gym time. So I think, Chris, you can manage it just with 15, 20, 30 minutes.
The good thing is I've never really had a sweet tooth because my parents are both diabetic. So I've never was predisposed to that. My wife's family though, bro, they're all sugar fiends. They love sugar to death, but they also work out a lot. And they also have, like, my father-in-law, he's like 67 right now, but the dude is just an absolute, like, he plays golf all the time, runs all the time, works out all the time. So they are actually really good at managing that portion. So I need to get better at that. So this way, you know, I can enjoy a healthy, fit lifestyle. And the thing is, like, post army, I have gained, like, over, you know, it takes years, but I've gained a lot of weight too. I think that's one of the things, like, the visceral fat is what really is doing me in. And Indian people in general, like, if you look at, we all have this, like, this thing going on.
Yeah,
the pot belly. Yeah. So I'm glad that you're a big
bomber, that suicide bomber looking.
Yeah. That's fucked up.
I'm
and
sorry,
seems
but
mildly
reveal my pajamas. That's how funny that was, dude.
It feels mildly racist, but I'll allow it because it's actually really funny.
You know, I'm just throwing it like
Oh my god. Okay, one thing I will say on the diabetes thing, Chamath said this on the Olin pod, I think a couple episodes ago, but he said North America and the West has higher rates of diabetes than anywhere else in the world because we are so gluttonous. We have so much resources. We can buy a fucking Kit Kat every day.
No, it's the food that it's our food supply. Do you know that so many of our products in America are banned in other countries? Like, there's foods that you get here, certain things from Kellogg, General Mills.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, if you go to Cheesecake Factory, I can order 2 cheesecakes because there's more disposable income. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's just more wealth.
You can, but if you were actually eating healthy the rest of the time, or if the food that you were eating wasn't so pumped up full of high fructose corn syrup,
I agree.
all that fake shit, your body would be in better balance, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. How come the Italians can eat all the pasta, smoke cigarettes, and still live longer than us?
Yeah.
That's true.
Or you ever
Why
look,
is that?
you ever look like when a girl gets pregnant, they say don't eat any sushi. It's like, what do you think all the women in Japan are eating for 9 months when they're pregnant? You know, it's these weird American custom and habits.
It's high fructose corn syrup and everything we eat.
That's
Ray says Mexico's the diabetes capital of the world. That's because of that Coke.
Yeah.
That's because
bro. It is.
The amount of Coke they drink is absolutely bonkers.
It's
So
not.
what I
Well,
can
I don't
tell
know.
you,
And maybe it is in Mexico, but even out here, my wife, where she worked, it was near a supermarket, and she would see the people coming out of the supermarket with like carts full of like these, $1 for like 3 liter of some soda with like red and just all these weird colors, like pure sugar. Bunch of kids sitting in the carts. They're all overweight and they're like 3-4 years old. Some of it is economic. They just can't afford the physical amount of food that they need if they try to get everything healthy. So they go for quantity.
Steve,
and
go ahead.
people go for quick and easy. And what I can tell you is, look, I have a huge sweet tooth, and I no longer work out the way I used to. I blew up. I mean, I got pretty heavy for me, and I was feeling horrible where I was drinking so much coffee just to fight through the brain fog. And I love coffee, but I was drinking so much of it. I changed my diet. I did paleo, never felt better in my life. I came off of it, blew up again, and I said no more. I went back to paleo before the holidays, lost 25, 30 pounds. Getting back on it now because the holidays are really hard to do paleo with
Yeah.
family around and everything. But I never in my life felt better than when I do paleo. And the only thing that I cheat on when I do paleo is putting half and half in my coffee. Otherwise, very strict. The only things I drink is water, coffee, and the only things I eat are meat, fish. I don't consider them the same thing, even though some people do. Fruits and vegetables. That's it. Nothing from a package.
Okay.
That's good.
So let's get into the company that advertises all the shit that makes us diabetic, which is Google. Okay. Stock's down 5%. They beat on EPS, beat on revenue, beat on cloud, beat on YouTube, first $9 billion revenue quarter, beat on their traffic costs. They missed advertising by 420 million, 65.52 billion they brought in. Street wanted 65.94, down 5%. I'll say one thing quickly, then we'll hand it off to Steve and get everybody talking. I listened to the earnings call in its entirety. I never agreed with you, Vitaly, when you said Sundar has to go. They asked him the only question that matters about ChatGPT, and he didn't have a response. I mean, I have never heard someone fumble over their words so much. He basically was like, well, AI is really exciting and 2024 is a good year. And he could have said everything against that. He could have said, it's not taking our lunch. We're not seeing any. Like, the question was, are you seeing problems in traffic because of other LLMs? And he just sidestepped the question. That really made me feel like this guy has some issues in terms of just being direct with shareholders on what's going on. Now, granted, I would like to buy the dip. I would hope it goes down another 5% because I think this is a massive overreaction, but earnings call was not good. Steve, let's start off with you. What were your impressions of Google? And then we'll get to everybody else.
I didn't listen to the earnings call and wait for the transcript to come out. I went through the report and I read some numbers. I'll throw them up later. But look, it was a great quarter. I mean, from a monetary aspect, great quarter. And I think my long-term thesis still holds up right now. The fact of the matter is there's 44 global, I think it's either 42 or 44 global elections this year. The US election is going to have such a tremendous amount of capital flowing into it. Alphabet and Meta are a duopoly in advertising, and they're going to see an inflow of capital throughout the year on the advertising front. I think YouTube is just going to continue to kill it. And I'm not that worried. And like you said, if it goes down, I'll buy more.
Yeah, if this sucker downs if it goes down another 5%, I will be buying more because this is stupid. Chris, let's get your thoughts. I think you have the most Google out of all of us. What were your thoughts on this earnings?
Can you put the chart back up, the thing that I said?
Yeah.
This nonsense about analysts being able to predict numbers. Tell me someone that can predict $65.5 billion worth of spend and do it 100% accurately, or, to the high side or to the low side. Expectations are just that. They're expectations. Fundamentally, this company is beating on top line, beating on bottom line. All this stuff about ChatGPT eating their lunch, I don't think it's happening. I know some people are like, oh, but I use ChatGPT for 70% of all my research. And I'm like, then that means that you are probably wrong on 70% of your stuff, because I have tried to use ChatGPT. I've tried to use Bard. The LLMs, they do not give you a clear and concise answer that actually is factual. There are so many times where this thing hallucinates, unless it's like something very small and very specific and superficial. You still need to go search for it. So I do use ChatGPT. I do use Bard, but only in limited cases. And the limited cases that I found have never been good enough to the point where I've had confidence. And the thing with me is that when I do research, I like being confident in what I'm actually looking at, not just, hey, you know what, this is what the LLM spit out, so that means that this is what I'm going to go with in my research. So I would say right now everyone
They
is
did 60 billion in buybacks, Chris, this year.
yeah, and they're probably going to boost it up in April to 70 billion in buybacks because cash flow is not their problem. Okay, cash flow is just amazing right now. And the one thing that you did see was that they did pay 9 billion in taxes. I don't know if you saw that because they had deferred taxes. So that's why their free cash flow number came in a little bit lower. But dude, this company's generating almost $21 billion in operating income per quarter, which means 80 billion in operating income, which by the way is still growing. And as they become more efficient, because they're still doing rolling layoffs, unlike Meta, which Meta, like with Zuckerberg, that was the good thing. Zuckerberg was just like, screw this, start cutting, and he just took a butcher knife to the company and knocked off a lot of things. Google's not going that route. Google's being a lot more methodical with their layoffs. So every other week, you're seeing.
I would say
lays
weak.
off this.
You say methodical. I say Sundar is weak and can't just pull the Band-Aid off.
Chris, how do you feel about Sundar? How do you feel about him? Because the earnings call, he objectively crapped the bed, in my opinion. How do you feel about him as a leader?
I think publicly he could definitely use some more media training, but in terms of operational efficiency, I think the guy's good. I mean, dude, look at when he took over 2019 CEO. Look at the revenues, look at the growth in Google. I will say that to some degree, he's not as ruthless as you need to be in that position. So if you look at like someone like Steve Jobs, right, or even Mark Zuckerberg or Nadella, you have to be ruthless with how you do your stuff. So right now, Sundar sometimes gets, in my opinion, a little bit walked over by some of his more colorful employees, you know. And so a lot of policies that he may even disagree with himself, he kind of just says, whatever, I'll let it go. So right now, I mean, it's his fault that Google overhired, right? Right now, anytime when companies start doing layoffs, that means that the CEO fumbled, right? Because that means that they didn't have enough planning and coordination to figure out what the headcount should be. That's one of the basic things between a CEO and a COO and a CFO that they need to come to terms with, which is what should be our headcount goals going into next year. Find out where the inefficiencies are and reduce them. Like that's really one of the core functions of a management team. And the fact that he let that kind of go into the stratosphere and now having to do the layoffs, that's bad. At least with Zuckerberg, he understood that he fucked up and said, you know what, screw this, and started chopping. Sundar right now, if you look at the year-over-year numbers, they're only down by 8,000 employees. I think they're overstaffed by probably 20 to 30,000. I mean, you look at that letter from TCI, that's exactly what they said. So, you know, just FYI, that's what I think.
I was just going to call him Vitaly, but he disappeared. Carlos, your thoughts on Google earnings?
I think this is a sign that the markets are expecting something a little bit more from Google right now, and I don't think that they're hitting that. And I think this goes back to the conversation about Pichai. You know, he's been there since 2004, rose through the ranks. 2015, he helped lead the team, helped develop Google Chrome. And this I think adds to Chris's point about why it's difficult for him to make personnel differences, why it's difficult for him to make workforce changes, because he was once part of that workforce. So I think he seems like the kind of guy that like rose through the ranks and finally got to the top. And this will be 10 years, or right now will be 10 years that he's been there. I think he's just wants to take a second and enjoy being at the top. It seems like he's lost a little bit of the hunger and the passion and that personality that got him there. And I think what the markets want to see are more controversial CEOs. I mean, if you look at the CEOs that get attention, it's guys like Karp, it's guys like Elon. Love him or hate him, he gets attention. The more outrageous and what's the word? Just outrageous in general, or the bigger that personality is, I think it can work good or bad. But for the most part, it's good for a company to have someone that's a really strong visionary leader that is polarizing. And I think he's everything but that. He's in the background. He wants to be like an operator, but maybe he doesn't need to be CEO. Maybe he can be like the chief technical officer. Maybe he can be the operations officer. But he doesn't seem like he's the guy. But the ideas of where Google's going in the next 10 years does not seem like it's coming out of his head. It seems like it's coming from what you're getting from engineers and how he feels he can monetize that and keep the train going. But I don't think it doesn't seem like he's ready for what's happening next. All of these companies are now moving into the next phase. How is AI going to change your company? How are you going to use AI to further solidify your moat and open up new S curves? That's what I think the question that the street is asking. And it sounds like they did not get the answer today.
Let me say this one thing, and then Vitaly, I want you to piggyback off of this. So I think the biggest mistake Sundar made in 2019 is not make ChatGPT before ChatGPT, even though they had all the talent. So Vitaly, you've been on this for the past 3 months now, saying he's got to go. Do you think, and then you can give me your overall thoughts on Google, that him being so beholden to this advertising model and not seeing what the world was going to be 5 years from now, even though they were developing LLMs, is why Google's in this position right now?
Yeah, if you think about why they're not doing well, they're doing all the right moves, by the way, in terms of executing. So he is operating efficiently in some respect, because he's keeping the business afloat. It has been growing. So I'm not arguing against that. But the thing is, we have a good comparison. We have another Indian guy, Satya Nadella, at Microsoft, who's taking all of the limelight, executing at such a high level, integrating AI completely in his company, pushing it forward, charging a price for it. So there's someone showing how it actually should be done. And then you're looking at Sundar, which is not doing any of that and let Microsoft eat their lunch. So I think people are looking at that and saying, this guy is not as good. I think if I'm recognizing it, I'm sure lots of Wall Street is recognizing that. And if someone is not as good or not executing, they're going to be punished. So I think Google stock is still undervalued. I think if it goes down more, I want to buy more. But honestly, I wish he would just be replaced. I wish Larry and Sergey, the operators who started Google, would come back. I'm hoping they're still hungry and they want to make a better company, but I'm hoping they come back. And I think something will happen, because if this continues with Google, he's not going to stay there. They're going to remove him.
So this is Meta's headcount. You can see that over a lot of years, Meta had added headcount, right? So if you look on a profit per employee basis, look at 2023. Look at this giant cut down in employees, right? They went negative 20,000 employees. Google, even though Google is a much bigger company, look at this reduction and look at this giant increase. This is the problem. The other thing is, I will disagree with you, Vitaly, on Sundar being replaced. People think that it's easy to run a big company like this. The alternative person to come back may not be able to actually do what they need to do, and that could actually put Google in a worse position. So I would rather be with Sundar than trying to chance it with someone new at this point. And on top of it, Larry and Sergey are retired. They have no interest in coming back and being dynamic employees. They'll come back to secure their legacy, to help out. But if you know about their personal health history, one of them can't even speak anymore. I forgot. I think it was Larry Page. He's got a voice condition, which is pretty much destroyed his ability to speak. Right.
So what you're saying is he needs a Neuralink.
Yeah, maybe. But the point is, they're in retirement mode. And Eric,
I'm going to share this.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all seen this. This is exactly the problem. Why is Microsoft and Meta taking AI so seriously? They're getting all of freaking these H100s.
Well,
it just shows.
That's because
to me that shows
Google just has their own TPUs. That's one of the reasons why they're not buying as many H100s.
And you're telling me they're as good?
Apple's not on the list either,
No, but that begs the question to put it together. If Vitaly's saying, why aren't they buying H100s? Chris' response is they have their own. But then why aren't they leading in AI if they have their own?
They kind of are. I mean, they're just slow. Look, they're not. You can't go from being behind to ahead in a very short period of time. You think about it, it's only been
it's their technology. This is
I agree
problem.
with Vitaly here. It's why are they behind? Why?
Eric, right there. Eric at 623. The problem, what was it? The work culture. I think that is a much bigger problem than we're making it.
I think that, Chris, when you talk about DEI and Google, I think that's the bigger problem. I don't think Microsoft has the same issue.
It's very hard.
I don't know. Microsoft, I'm sure, has their own work culture issues.
Sorry, it's very hard to innovate in a company like that. It's very hard to innovate in a culture like that.
So when you say behind, you need to define what behind
cloud.
is.
The reason I think Microsoft's ahead in cloud, and correct me if I'm wrong, is because they saw where AI cloud was going. They're at 25 billion in revenue on cloud. Google focused on ads, so they're doing way more than ads, but Google's only doing 9 billion. Google's growing 25% year over year on cloud. Microsoft's growing 20%, but Microsoft has $12 billion more in ad revenue because they knew The world was going to AI clouds before Google got involved in this.
No. So Microsoft was not in AI cloud until very recently when they actually did the partnership with OpenAI. They've been in cloud way before Google. GCP was the third person to come in. Number one, the first person to come into cloud, like giant cloud, was AWS. Azure in 2016 started to do the same thing because Satya Nadella saw that, hey, everything is moving to a cloud. Google did the same thing with GCP when they hired one of the people from Oracle, TK, and he developed a lot of the processes for GCP. So GCP is number 3. It's just they're late to the party, so they're growing also.
So you're telling me the people who were in the cloud had all of this infrastructure for the last 20 years are behind in cloud services? Is this what you're saying? And that's okay?
They focused more on search. That was their core.
Well, that's
market.
the problem, Chris.
Yeah,
you're missing the issue.
Right, but
Sundar,
hold on. Before you guys, Sundar took over as CEO in 2019. Okay, 2019. That's after Microsoft had already gone into the cloud, and right after 2019, the company shifted into GCP services right away. So it's not like, oh, Sundar's the one to blame. Like, oh, he didn't see it coming.
too.
You know, the CEO before that didn't believe in it as much. Eventually, they saw the market opportunity and said, let's make the strategic moves. They did that by hiring from Oracle at the time. What's his name?
Thomas
Kurian, and really built out GCP. Right now, the benefits that Google is getting in GCP are there. It's just that they were the last people to show up to the party. What does that mean? That means that they have to work twice as hard to gain market share compared to incumbents. And on top of it, if you look at Microsoft has pre-existing relationships with pretty much everyone. So they can literally go into any sort of Fortune 500 company and sell services because everyone already uses Microsoft products.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not hard to transition.
To that point.
Real quick, Steve, take this picture, then I got your calls. Go ahead, Steve.
So when we did our migration, Google Cloud wasn't even a discussion. It was AWS or Azure. And Azure, it has so many just synergies with SharePoint and all the other Microsoft 365 stuff. Google Cloud has made great advances, and they have seen tremendous revenue increases, but they were so late to the game because a lot of companies had already done a massive portion of their migration from on-prem servers to the cloud pre-pandemic. So they're at a losing battle. The best thing Google could do, purchase IBM. Just purchase IBM and merge IBM Hybrid Cloud with Google Cloud Services and gain all the consulting also.
I guess they would own Red Hat too, if that's any use.
They would own Red Hat also. That's the only way they're going to even have a prayer catching up to AWS or Azure.
I mean, it's still an issue that, look, I get they were behind, and you're right about 2019 and him coming in, but I still feel he's not the guy who's pushing to try to get ahead of everybody. He's trying to keep up. He's always like, oh, you got my technology. Okay, I messed up. Oh, I released this product too early. It's not ready to show people. Oh, it's this, right? It's like years of this has been going on. I don't think he's the guy. I mean, and this proves it. He can't even keep up with the ad revenue. I mean, so what are we talking about here?
Yeah, the big fear is, when does the ad revenue fall off?
That's what I'm afraid about.
And why isn't it? Why isn't it going up? Like they control. First of all, the AI portion should be like, we could make your ads more effective.
No, so they talked about that on the call. They talked about that for a long time. The problem is they missed on that one number. And that's the thing. They're saying our AI is going to be amazing for ads, which it is, and it's going to get better. But they missed on that.
But that's like subscribers to Netflix. Like that's
exactly
the money. That's gross margins for Tesla. Like every company has that one metric, and they don't give a shit.
You can't fuck up on that. Yeah.
But look, to be fair to Wall Street, if you are doubling down and going all in on search, and you're not, search and ads, and you're not beating on that number, unless you're trying to do a Tesla where you're like, we're not just a search engine, you know what I mean? Like you've got to make that case. And that's actually to my next point is like, I agree with Vitaly that the guy needs to go, because if you think about the Google that we knew when they came up, Google Maps, Gmail, If you look at even Google Glass, even though it failed, that was a company that was trying shit and they were pushing people. You could say that a lot of the VR today was because Google at least attempted it. It might have been too
Google
early.
has tried nothing in the past 5 years.
They haven't done anything. Where is the innovation
outside of Waymo, right?
and things like just even the Google Maps and Gmail? Those were huge changes. And Google had a bunch of services. They've closed some of them down, but they had they had a bunch of even the like GChat. They were coming like it just felt like a cool young hip company. Now it feels like a really old, mature like behemoth. And it hasn't even been that long.
Let me ask this question, Steve. What is the reason?
Well, there's another problem. I just want to point out there's another problem. When Zuck talks, I still feel there's passion. Even if you hate him, there's
100%.
passion in what he's saying. He's trying to get in. He's trying to get in front of people. He's passionate about what he's doing. When you hear Satya talk, he is super passionate. Maybe he's faking all of it, but he seems passionate. Elon Musk, passionate. You hear Sunder? It's fucking business guy. It basically, or maybe an engineer who should be on a lower rung like Carlos.
No, it's business with a thick accent. And there's a lot of people that don't like these.
I mean, I'm saying it's not exciting. We're not excited by Google anymore. That's sad.
You're saying that this is
Maybe he needs to be the COO and get somebody else in there to be the vision.
He needs to hire me as a public speaking coach, dude.
No, but he obviously has very little vision. Maybe he did in the past. I'm not saying maybe he saw something in Chrome and he did a lot of work, but that doesn't mean he should run the whole company and move us forward. It just doesn't mean that.
Well, Steve, real quick, Steve, what's the reason to buy the dip if it goes to 135? Would that be a reason to?
I don't know what the exact number I would buy more at. I have a decent amount of it, but I would like to buy more if it goes. I'd have to look at the numbers, but I'm looking at their fiscal year compared to Apple's fiscal year and the trailing 12 for Microsoft. This is a cash cow. I mean, look, maybe they have some short-term problems, but when I've said this before, when you're making this amount of money, their net income over the past year, $74 billion. Okay. They generate $101.75 billion in cash from operations. I mean, hard to not think that they can't figure it out when they have a blank checkbook. It can do anything that they need to do. Now, maybe it's going to take some time, but with them continuing to buy back shares, I mean, the numbers just make sense. I might as well just share this so you guys can say. I mean,
while you bring it up, I just wanted to say he reminds me of John Scully from Apple. When that guy ran PepsiCo and he was brought into Apple to save a computer company. I'm not saying he's a PepsiCo guy, but he's very similar to that guy.
Okay.
I mean, so these are the numbers from today for Google. Apple is, I guess the trailing 12 is they haven't reported yet, but that was their fiscal year. And Microsoft does not report on a calendar year, so this is their trailing 12. But I mean, their operating margin is 27.5%, profit margins 24%. I mean, these are really compelling margins. They're trading. They didn't update with after hours, but 26 times earnings. I mean, not a lot to dislike here, to be honest with you.
And the buybacks too that
yeah, I mean, there's not a lot to dislike.
And Steve, did you see the margins are improving? They went from 24 to this quarter to 27%. So you can see that they're making all the right steps. I think 1 quarter of this low these expectations, like literally I think at this point people are looking for reasons to sell Google because they feel like it's going to get disrupted. And it's also why Google's multiple is probably in the 25 area, and on a forward basis it'll be like in the 20 and the even lower, because people are like, hey, there's more risk that Microsoft is going to disrupt them. So right now people are willing to give Microsoft PE is what, like a 28? No, 38?
36.
Which is crazy if you think about it in relatively compared to Google, and they have comparable amount of revenue right now. So I don't know. I would say Google seems like the value play. Microsoft seems like the growth play, but I would not buy Microsoft, even though they've got the tailwind behind them.
But this was the first quarter, apparently, that Google has shown double-digit growth in years.
On top line, on revenue?
Yeah. So it's like,
I mean, Yeah.
I see what you're saying, and I agree with you in the sense of like it feels like a value company more than a growth company, but like the numbers seem to be saying something different.
Well, I mean, in terms
Well,
of growing their EPS, they're a growth company. Like their EPS is growing like crazy, and I think their EPS is going to continue to grow like crazy. So even if you gave them like a 25 PE and go out 2 years into the future, and they're generating, let's say, $8 a share in EPS by 2026, that still means that Google's going to be like a $200 company. I mean, a $200 stock. And this is not including probably some additional gains that they could probably have. So I think the value company right now is Google. The one that has the highest expectations for growth are Microsoft. And so the way that I would typically go about this is I won't go towards the one that's more growthier, because the expectations for Microsoft, anything happens to AI and it doesn't pan out, Microsoft is going to take a big hit. Google is going to take a hit, but not as much. NVIDIA is just going to get decimated, right? Same thing with SMCI and everything else. And I know a lot of people, AI is not a bubble. AI is not a bubble. Dude, everything that I'm looking at tells me that AI is hitting into bubblish territory. Long term, there is a future for AI. I'm not saying that there isn't, but short term, the valuations have gone way beyond what is normal. And the thing is,
all
most
paradigm changes are in a bubble.
yeah,
That's just the way it is.
as
Yeah.
Cisco in 2000.
Yep. So right now, if you're trying to buy something like, oh, you know what, I want to buy NVIDIA because I think there's still a lot of room to grow. Hey, listen, good for you. Good luck. I hope you get your double your money. But I think the risk to reward for NVIDIA falling off a cliff because of slowdown in AI spend is way too much. So basically, the way that I would say this happens, you have one quarter where they don't meet the expectations. And I was like, oh my God, but let's just take a break. Maybe next quarter, everything will be fine. And then a quarter after that, you see numbers starting to come down even further. And that's when people start panicking. By third quarter, the company's going to be in a free fall. So if you look at what happened during the crypto boom, where everyone was buying those GPUs, the first sign that GPUs were not being bought up like crazy because crypto started to go down, everyone was selling off their NVIDIA. So I would say to the people holding NVIDIA, good luck. Keep your eye on the pulse of the market. If you see any slowdown in AI or bearish expectations where things are not materializing, profits are not materializing, that is your clearest sign to get the fuck out.
Chris, why is SMCI running so much?
Because right there, the demand for AI chips is correlated to the demand with hardware that supports the AI chips. Right? SMCI was very smart in that they got in very early and they had partnerships with NVIDIA and AMD with regards to creating custom hardware.
But does it deserve to be up 80% in 1 month? Like year to date, 2024, it's up 80%. Does that make sense to you, or is that bubbling?
No. It makes sense because they're growing that fast. Look at its financials.
But then why are you saying we're in a bubble then if you think it deserves to be there?
Because that's what I'm saying. It's not healthy. This is not repeatable. This is a cyclical business. The other thing that people are looking at is top line revenue growth, but they're completely forgetting one thing. This is a low margin business. There's no reason why you should be giving it that kind of crazy multiple. Hardware businesses are usually single digit multiples. Okay. They're not like NVIDIA. NVIDIA is not a hardware company. NVIDIA is an IP company at the end of the day with design in there. NVIDIA actually is a lot safer than SMCI is, even though, remember, I'm the guy that said SMCI is the one to look at. So in the short term right now, everyone's looking at SMCI because they're like, oh my God, their growth is amazing. But dude, any indication that AI is slowing down will mean that they won't need as many AI chips, which means that they won't need as many AI hardware.
Because AI may not actually slow down, but the pull forward from buying hardware to create the AI could slow down because a lot of data centers will have already scaled up and they will need years to depreciate all the assets before going through another upgrade cycle. Micron is a great example of this because whenever you get a new DRAM cycle, they go through huge growth spurts and then it levels off. So AI may not slow down, but the equipment needed could. What happens when Meta buys these 18 billion worth of H1000s or whatever they are, and all these companies have the chips in place? They're not just going to keep doing it. They're going to utilize them, and then they'll buy more when they need to. So there could be more growth for a little bit, but eventually it's going to plateau.
Okay, so that was a good discussion on Microsoft, Google, what's going on with AI. I think we'll touch on this real quick because Chris, we didn't get your thoughts here yesterday. SOFI has kind of collapsed today. SOFI now down almost like 15% from the earnings. Any thoughts on why the street just does not like this stock and will not let it stay above $8.70?
That's one of the most loaded questions.
It's an easy question. It's a really, really easy question to answer. So go to your 5-day chart. It's all about expectations. If you can make people believe that you're going to the moon, people will buy your stock hand over fist. If you cannot justify it, people will sell your shit. That's it. In the short term, the market is what does it say? The market is just a voting machine, right? And then long term, it's a weighing machine.
Short-term voting, long-term weighing. So who showed up? Was it Lizzo? Who showed up?
Look, people are
Lizzo's sister.
People are crazy. And SoFi is not going to the moon tomorrow. Like this is
Steve, it can't hold $8.40. Like, what's going on here? Why is the street?
Look at that spike up? People took profits. Nothing to be worried about. I mean, look, did you guys listen
That's
to
the same price it was at last week? Nothing happened because of earnings. That's my.
Did you guys listen to the earnings call?
Oh yeah, I listened to it. It was great. No, I'm saying it was a great quarter. We taled about it
So
yesterday. But
the
why
most
is the stock not
important
getting
thing,
below?
look, the most important thing for their earnings, you got to hold SoFi. SoFi is a company you have to hold for years. Okay. Noto came out and he did not give guidance for just 2024. He gave multi-year guidance through 2026. And
Why is
then
the stock not holding up then? That's my
who
question.
cares?
What do you mean who cares? I care. What are you talking
Why?
about?
I hope it goes down so I can buy more.
Dude, it's 1 quarter of profitability. Why don't
Yeah. I mean,
things
look,
like this actually need time to
it
keep
needs
going?
time to
A
mature,
second
but
quarter, a
look
third
at this
quarter.
way. He gave you 2026 EPS guidance of 55 to 85 cents. Okay. Based on yesterday's prices when it was at 913, that was a forward 2026 PE range of 11.5 to 16.5 times earnings. That's super cheap for that amount of growth. And then he said earnings are going to grow at 20 to 25% post 2026 based on everything that they are implementing. Over the next 3 years, there's a huge roadmap that they have for businesses. It is.
So why aren't people
unbelievable.
buying the stock? You're telling me everything that's good
Who
about it.
cares?
Well,
Don't
I
worry
think-
about
I
what
think a
other
lot of
people
people
are
care.
doing.
Steve.
Don't worry about what other people are doing.
You've been listening to Dan Ives too much. Sometimes
Yeah,
there is a disconnect between the stock and the company. Sometimes that
Dude,
is
this
true.
disconnect has lasted for a long time. Is what I'm
Look,
trying.
No, I don't think so. It's only it's
What do you mean?
backed
It's
2
not-
years ago. It's backed 2-3 years ago. This is
I
not a
want
long
to show you something.
company. This doesn't have a 10-year history of this. Okay.
All right, show me what you want to show me. Then we'll talk about Elon and the Delaware.
Yep.
thing.
So you look at, and the ones I have highlighted in yellow have not reported yet, so I don't have the Q4 2023 deposits. SoFi grew their deposits year over year by 153%. Out of these 25 financial institutions, only 4 companies grew more than 5% year over year. JP Morgan was the only big money financial center that actually grew deposits this year through the regional banking crisis. Now, SoFi members are the ones that you need to worry about, not what the street's saying, not what rumors are. SoFi's members are growing. SoFi's deposits are growing. That means customers are happy with the product. This is the most important thing. Eventually, they will start winning RFPs for the tech platform. They will start powering their competitors with the underlying technology for the cyber bank. And they will have business banking, and they're building out their asset management platform, which means that they will probably become a sponsor for 401ks. And the big telltale is them adding 6,000 mutual funds onto the platform. They already have their own proprietary ETFs. They're going to get into the mutual fund game probably. They'll become a sponsor for pension funds and 401ks. They'll be able to double dip, and they'll get their management fees on the ETFs and the mutuals. And then they'll get their asset management fees for all the assets for companies. They are going into business checking, savings, and lending. There's a lot to be bullish on, but this is going to take years to play out. So everything from a day-to-day basis, unless you're a trader, don't worry about it.
The one thing that I'll say that is concerning about SoFi, this whole thing with total users, I wish they would break it down by total active users, because from what I know, there's a ton of people that are fed up with the app and just said, fuck this, I'm not using it. I'll go with another, including myself. Like, I just don't like the SoFi app. I'm sorry, it's not good. All right. You just, unless they improve the UI on it, it's just garbage. So,
Yeah, I'd like to
what
know
about
how many people utilize the products, not just the product number. I agree.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, right now, anyone that goes into a SoFi Stadium, like they get all this promotional stuff, I think. So there is definitely interest in people joining SoFi. So it's like, oh, look, we grew members. Okay, well, what do you mean by members? What's your definition? Does that mean that they've actively used the product in the last 90 days? That's a member. If you're saying someone that just opened their account and never bothered to do anything with it, and you're not generating any tangible benefit from it, that's a different story. So.
They also have any metrics on the average age of their customer base?
No, we have
No,
the credit
I
score,
don't.
not the age. I would imagine it has to
I can
be.
imagine it's not a bunch of boomers, right? But the idea is,
I would assume it's much younger.
again, leading to the long-term thing. You get a bunch of kids who are at school starting to make money. If their deposits and their accounts should only grow over time, and eventually when they want to get loans and for car loans and bank loans for homes in a few years, that should be the first place that they're going to go. So it's something where as long as they can keep those people in the ecosystem, they'll be able to monetize them further in the future.
All right, let's end off on Tesla because this was the breaking news of tonight. Elon's $55 billion pay package at Tesla was struck down by a Delaware judge because that's where Tesla's incorporated after a shareholder challenged it as excessive. This was negotiated in 2018. The judge said that the shareholder, who apparently owns 9 shares of Tesla, was able to win the claim that the compensation package was excessive. And as a result of that, Tesla has to create an entirely new executive compensation package for Elon. Here is 45 seconds of Dan Ives talking about it, and then Carlos, you'll start first on this.
The package was just excessive. Elon has gone back to his board and said, no, I need more stock in this company in order for you to keep my brain power. Where do you come down on this?
I mean, the biggest asset in Tesla is Musk. Musk is Tesla. Tesla is Musk. And obviously, this is a jaw dropper that came down in Delaware. I think the board ultimately goes back to the drawing board and comes out with a comp package that could supersede this and maybe get Musk to what we believe could be close to 25%, voting interest. It's a pivotal time for Tesla, and the board is not going to take this sitting down. This is something they're going to fight. And I think it could actually be an aha moment for Musk and the board.
Investor.
Carlos, your thoughts on what's going on here?
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. It happened in Delaware, Biden's home state, with an appointed judge, overturns it from a guy from 9 shares.
You think Biden did this?
To me, this is absolutely what we talked about earlier. This is what I responded to you on X. This is what they call the regionalization of the conflict against Elon Musk for purchasing Twitter. This is all backlash for purchasing Twitter, especially now in the election year. You're going to see these attacks ramp up, and the purpose of these things are to enrage Tesla shareholders because Tesla is the piggy bank. So that's how I look at it. I don't know how that's going to work. The board is going to be upset because here's the thing: 78% of the shareholders voted for that package. 78%. We give a presidency on a 51-49. Okay, you can win the presidency, but with 78% of your shareholders who put their money in voting that this is what they want, exactly. All shares matter. You know what I'm saying? Like that to me is clearly what this is. It's a political hit job, and he'll appeal it. I don't know how it's actually gonna end up. Maybe this is what they need to do, a shakeup where they can give him some sort of like a carp fuck you shares.
Maybe actually benefit. Maybe this is a blessing in disguise.
But Elon's not gonna take it sitting down, and I think the board is gonna be offended. What I will say though is, as strong of a guy as Elon is, I do think that this pressure is starting to get to him. He's done a couple of things that I think are out of character because he's being attacked on so many levels. The way he was on the earnings call, I think, is an indication. I think it was him purposefully trying not to get ahead of himself and say things like he did with the Cybertruck and put the company in a position of, why is everything taking so long, right? Even tweeting out the Optimus robot folding a shirt and not disclosing that it was being remote controlled is another example. The stuff that we saw about the Dojo supercomputer that came out the day after earnings. I feel like he's doing what he said he didn't want to do, which is having to care about his messaging. So I unfortunately think that the attacks are working on some level. I hope that this is resolved quickly, because it's ridiculous that the government can come in and say that the compensation packages. I mean, where's Bernie Sanders in all of this? Right? Where's Bernie Sanders saying, yeah, well, if Elon's package is over, is egregious, what about all the other CEOs that are making 354? Where's Elizabeth Warren, right? Saying, yeah, all the CEOs. No, it's just him. And what's the deciding factor? It's because the dude has Twitter. That's what this is all about, in my opinion. I shared this with you. I'll just share this little bit here.
Real quick, while you're pulling her up, Vitaly, you sold a bunch of Tesla yesterday. Your thoughts on this whole debacle?
That wasn't yesterday, but we talked about it, but that wasn't yesterday. So Elon is definitely being attacked. I think it's by Putin, not Biden, but it's
Putin.
He runs Delaware, I heard. No. But I could actually see Biden interfering. I could actually see that. He's
an appointed judge in his home state. Come on,
he's been a real shit. Okay, this whole time against Elon. So I'm not saying maybe he's calling in some favors. Who knows? But either way, the worst part is, how can you tell a private company that already voted for the way they want things to run how they should run their company? Like, that sounds almost like a communist state. So
he literally worked for all those years.
Yeah, and it's not like he didn't benefit everybody. Like, right. I am still happy with Elon's job for my shares and the amount of money I made. I am super happy, and I'm sure every other investor who's been in it for 5 years feels the same. Absolutely. So this is total nonsense. This has to be overturned because this is anti-American. It's, forget about Biden being involved, whatever. It's just anti-American to interfere when a private company has already made a decision how they want to compensate their CEO with votes. So that's dumb. But I think this might, like to Carlos's point, this might actually benefit where now they have more incentive to fix his next structure, whatever that is, where Elon might get more than he deserves in the next one because they fucked him on the last one, having to deal with this shit.
I find it so funny that you want to give Elon all this grace, but with Sundar, it's like, fuck that, we need to replace this guy, even though Google's metrics.
He's made more money off Elon. That's why.
I made way more money out of Elon.
Yeah. So it's just, it just goes to show that there are times where we do internally have biases for and against.
Did he 15-20x the stock? Did I miss that? Him personally?
Yeah, because he's been an employee forever, like you said, right? So he's part of what
I'm
built
saying
out
the CEO that made 15-20x the stock.
Look,
he didn't,
because Google was already a giant when he took over as CEO. I know, but look, Elon is a whole different case. He actually revolutionized the entire industry. The credit that Google Chrome and Android and all those things, those are happened under Sundar Pichai. Sundar Pichai, if you look at the Eric Schmidt interview, Eric Schmidt did not want Google to go into browsers, didn't want Google to do a lot of innovative things. Sundar actually did some underhanded, below the radar things and actually pushed those things forward. So I'm just saying, like, don't take like two things. Like, we can't be biased against one person and then be like, oh yeah, this guy gets forget. But I will say this is a big loss for Tesla shareholders, because this just says to Elon, why don't you the AI stuff that you're doing at Tesla, why don't you just do it in another company as a private company where you think Elon Musk has any sort of lacking in terms of financing and funding? The guy could do an AI startup and VCs would throw money hand over fist. It just means now all the development would be done outside of Tesla, and the benefits wouldn't go to the shareholders of Tesla. It would go to the VCs who got in early. So I think that this is a big loss, and I can't say 100% if this is politically motivated. But I have seen that the court system these days is a lot more. It's becoming a lot more. Yeah, the court system is becoming a lot more weaponized, and so depending on which area you do business can significantly determine where you're gonna how you're gonna be treated. I mean, I don't want to get too political, but this whole Jeannie Carroll Trump verdict, dude, that was so stupid to get $83 million defamation against Trump for, I think, calling her like a crackpot, when clearly you can see that she's kind of, a little bit eccentric.
If you saw the video of her when Maddow asked her how she would spend the money, People are saying that is this election's deplorables moment. That
Yeah,
they
well,
basically.
Whatever, man. I'm just saying a lot of what's driving people, like ethics. I don't know. I don't even know what to say.
Let me get Steve in here. Steve, you just
Yeah.
became a Tesla shareholder. The bot is your thesis, only the bot. What are your thoughts on Elon?
He's already sold out, buddy.
No,
sold
I'm
this?
gonna-
You sold?
no. So we just discussed this, and I'm going to try to say the same exact thing I said, probably be a little different. This is very surprising. Look, I'm not a lawyer, but I am on a board for our co-op building. The shareholders vote the board members in, and the board members have a fiduciary responsibility to represent the shareholders. Same thing with every public company. Okay. I can't see how this is not going to get overturned. And once again, I'm not a lawyer, but a compensation package was granted to Elon. Elon hit the metrics to get the reward and enriched every shareholder. To think that any shareholder that took the ride would be upset because of how much money Elon got for hitting that metric. And I don't know exactly what the shares were at or what they got to, but arbitrarily, let's just say shares were purchased at $10. And in order for Elon to get that reward, they had to go to 100. You just made $90 a share. The last thing you should be doing is putting a lawsuit saying that the person who got you to the dance screwed everybody over and got paid too much money.
So how do you think he lost the case then? Why do you think the judge voted against
I
it?
have no idea. I'm not going to get into it, but it worries me because, like Chris said, you do not want Elon going to ARK, going to any of these VC funds, going to Steve Cohen, going to Dalio. You don't want him starting a separate company. You need to figure out a way to do an Elon class share, just like I put on my Twitter or X post a couple of weeks ago. That's a sliding scale with no equity. Do not give this guy any more money. Make it where no matter if they dilute shareholders or buy back shares, Elon's voting rights stay at 25%. Because the last thing I want as a Tesla shareholder is Elon to do what he did with SpaceX, build a separate company, and build out all the AI stuff in a separate company. Tesla shareholders should want every monetization that Elon's going to do to be under the Tesla brand so they benefit from it. Keep the guy happy because he's the guy that's going to get you to where you want to go. Do not have this guy split his focus any more than it already is away from Tesla. Have him sign an agreement. We give you the Elon class share for the voting rights. You do not make a separate company ever again. Everything else goes through Tesla. Everybody wins. Elon's happy. Shareholders will benefit in the
But
long
Steve,
run.
they already did that. The shareholders already did that. They created a metric, a compensation package that was nearly impossible metrics. They voted on it by a majority, and he hit the metrics. Now
No,
the
but what I'm
court's
saying
coming
is
after the fact and
create
saying
a founder class share form.
He's talking about the next step.
well, that's what needs to be done now. But
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
just to answer you, Chris, I think the difference between someone like Elon and Sanjar is that Elon's a founder. And you notice that a lot of those guys that are founders are just are on a different level when it's their company from the beginning. And that's why I think the people a little more scrutinizing of Sanjar. You want to see him be a visionary as if it was his company.
And also, no one's suing Sundar to take away his compensation package. It's because they hate Elon so much, and he's polarizing.
He's working with the government. I mean, he's working with the government. This is exactly what I said. I posted to you, Amit. Can you share the screen?
Carlos, while he's sharing it, let me ask you a question. Did this guy who had 9 shares lose money?
No, he made a
Probably not.
This is what I'm saying. Like, who is
So
this
if he
guy?
didn't lose, if the person didn't
Those
lose
9 shares, by the way, are now like
What
15x.
is-
So he has 150 shares. Or
Well,
Well, he had
just
9
doesn't-
shares
doesn't
back
make
in
sense.
2018, and it's been so you got to multiply it by 15 because we've had
Yeah.
2 splits.
So he has
multiply
more
by
shares.
15, whatever. He's sitting on 100 some shares. He didn't lose any money.
So, by the
Crazy.
way, I think this whole voting stuff that Elon is talking about is complete bullshit. Why would you, as a person who wants to eventually go to Mars, do all this other stuff, right?
Mhm.
Why would you accept a doubling of your position in Tesla when you could just found a new company, do it really well and get 1,000x return and still have control. Do it without having the public eye, public gaze, and the shareholders to deal with it. Just
He could.
answer me.
That's why
Tesla
shareholders need to give him what he wants.
No,
and he
you're-
very
No,
well could.
it's already
The
being
money in the public markets is what made Elon what he is. The fact that he was able to access public markets and raise way more money. So yes, he can have a great startup and he can reach a certain level, but you can't reach Tesla scale with just private money. That would be too hard. I don't think he
So
wants that
It's
either.
also because it's already being developed at Tesla. They're already developed.
It's already all there. Yeah,
So now they'd have to split out Optimus, split out FSD.
you can't do that. Tesla owns that. You can't
Right.
do that so
It
easy.
becomes very hard, just logistically speaking, to separate that out. And once again, he's made it really clear, and I take him at face value. The reason why he wants a 25% voting rights is not because he wants 25% of the company. He just wants to make sure that he has a very strong voice, enough to be influential, but not enough that he can't be overturned. He said it a million times. And if you've heard, even going back to the arguments he had about OpenAI, this is something he feels very strongly about, that AI in the wrong hands or in people that are profit motive minded could be a real net negative for humanity. And what's the
Have
point
you
of
looked
running
at
to Mars
how
if
much-
Earth is shit?
Have you looked at how much of Tesla, Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street own? Just the three of them?
10%, right?
It's just over 16%
Oh, between the three of them, yeah.
company together.
So
Vanguard
if he-
alone owns
Right, if he has
7.
12% of the company, 12% voting, Vanguard, State Street, and what's
If
the other?
they act as a block and then get some activists to come in, they can absolutely derail.
But hold on. To push
He said
back
that
a
on the
little bit,
call. He said that on the call.
Elon would have had 25%, but he sold half of that shit to buy Twitter. Remember? So
Okay,
like,
but as a shareholder,
you got to remember that Elon
matter.
No,
got into this
But
mess.
he at the time felt that preserving free speech or having a free speech platform. and it was
As a Tesla shareholder, I don't give a fuck about that argument. I care about my capital, right? I don't give a shit.
Okay, all right, so
No. As a human, I care about that, Carlos. I
if
agree.
you care about your capital,
It's not an attractive.
So Amit, you're right, by the way, and I think it's total fucking shit. But Elon is our great white hope. Okay, so
I'm happy he bought Twitter, bro. I love.
no, facts are facts. He's a fucking moron. He did that. I agree with you.
No.
But
No.
he is the guy who's going to make FSD and robots. He's the one making it all happen. Without him, the whole Tesla thesis falls apart.
I don't think you understand these people. Oh no, he shouldn't have bought. He's an idiot. That is the completely wrong take. What do you think would have happened to Tesla stock if he didn't buy Twitter and they attacked him on Twitter or kicked him off for something he said?
Dude, I think
The guy would have literally no voice in the mainstream media. As much advertising I wanted, he'd have no
Maybe
voice.
that would have been a good thing. To be honest, maybe that would have been a good
Maybe
thing.
we need a Sundar.
They would
Dude,
tank
I don't think he would have got
every
kicked off of
fucking
Twitter.
night.
I agree with you.
It is so short-sighted to be so motive minded. Oh, I just want to make my 5-10x that you can't do anything that's not what I think, what I think you should be doing. You just you have no idea the scale that this shit is operating on. This is the fucking whole world fucking stage right now.
Dude, most shareholders are feeling Michael's comment. That's a personal issue.
No.
That has nothing to do with me. Like, I think
No.
Amit, you made a comment that you care about your capital. Okay, you're a Tesla shareholder. Or
okay, so let me, Steve, I'll let you.
He has 9 shares.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter how many.
It was the guy
hold
who
on. So
filed the lawsuit.
I agree with Carlos. I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate here. I agree. I'm very happy he saved free speech. I'm trying to take the other side of the person who, there's a guy named Martin who follows me. He doesn't give a shit about Twitter, even though he's on Twitter all day, ironically. But he loves Tesla. He has 4,000 shares. That's his only stock. He just cares about his capital. So to him, Elon selling and losing some voting percentage to buy Twitter, that to him is like, well, why would I give?
You know why? Because he doesn't see the connection between the public perception of Tesla and what was happening on Twitter and other platforms. Elon, before he bought Twitter, was one of the most popular or one of the most followed people on Twitter. Like maybe Barack Obama had more, but he wasn't active. The point is, he could have very easily been banned from Twitter, and that was his primary way of speaking to basically correcting the record on a lot of the FUD that was happening. You're already seeing a ton of the fun in the mainstream media. Twitter was the only place that he had a chance to combat some of it, or even people that were Elon fans to combat some of it and actually help control some of the narrative. if he didn't buy Twitter, especially in this election year with some of the comments that he made in 2020 about wanting to run his factory, like he didn't ask to be political. He just didn't want to close his factory, and he got thrust into this whole political thing because he didn't believe in
But
some.
Carlos, are you really saying he had to spend $44 billion to make sure Tesla's stock was? Is that your?
He has said several times that he will make sure that Twitter brings tremendous value to Tesla shareholders, and I believe that. I believe that if he did not purchase that and have a place, just think about how the platform has changed, and also think about how he's been able to convey the Tesla message, and how other people have been able to act as ambassadors for the brand and help bring brand awareness, which brings in capital. Like it's very short-sighted to just think in your own little bubble as a Tesla shareholder that you only want the dude to focus on one thing when there are other things happening, especially when you get to that level and you're disrupting a bunch of companies and industries that they are disrupting. There is going to be backlash, and they're not going to play fair. And this is what you're seeing. And so I fundamentally disagree with this idea that like buying Twitter was a distraction. No, this was absolutely essential, because if he didn't, you wouldn't hear shit from Elon Musk now. It would be nothing but FUD, and the stock price would reflect that.
All right, cool.
So
I think you guys think of Elon way too much as like this benevolent person, where I think he's just a human dude. You know, so
did I say that?
No. I'm just saying
you guys.
Everyone thinks like, oh, Elon is like a champion of free speech. Yeah, because he got forced to buy Twitter. Remember, he tried to get out of the deal, right?
That
so
is
the
true,
thing with him
Carlos.
is
You
that
Preach, brother, preach.
He tried to pull out.
He tried to pull out, and he landed on.
Coming inside, dude. He tried to pull out. He came inside.
He tried to pull out.
You know, if he really cared about like being the vanguard of freedom of speech, he wouldn't have tried to pull out. It's like, nah, everything is worth it. Let's go. It's just
he pivoted as soon as
he leaned into it. He leaned into it.
Okay, let me just make it clear. I believe everything that Elon is saying is true in terms of where his heart is and where his thought process is. But don't get it twisted. He's not doing this just because he wants to be some sort of a martyr. He has very specific goals. If you look at everything that Elon does through the lens of he wants to eventually get us to Mars, everything from the design of the Cybertruck, Starlink. If you look at all of the Boring Company, you look at all of the things that he's done through that lens, it all makes sense. He definitely is looking out for his own personal interests. It's just that his interests aren't necessarily what are our interests all the time. They're encapsulated in it, but they're many levels removed, or enough levels removed where it's not as obvious. I'm not saying he's trying to be some kind of a martyr. He's not asking for that. But in order for him to achieve his goals, I think he recognizes that there's certain fights that he has to take. And
let's get Steve, go ahead. You've been waiting.
yeah, all I was going to say is put Twitter aside. He could have spent the money on other things. Okay. You care about your capital. Your capital is in Tesla. Are you better off with Elon at the helm,
100%.
happy, focusing on Tesla, or are
That's
you
the
better
bottom
off
line
with
right there.
somebody else coming in?
Say what?
He said, would you rather have Elon or someone else? I agree. I would have Elon. The argument I think by some shareholders are making is that if he did this crazy shit like buying Twitter, maybe he doesn't deserve 25%. Now, maybe they're misguided shareholders, but that argument.
Once again,
we're grown-ups and we need Elon. Okay,
Yes,
that's just the bottom line. Who cares?
Giving
You guys-
him more
you guys-
money. I
you
am
guys can
talking
continue.
about giving him.
All right, Chris, we'll see. You guys go to Cash Flow Chronicles.
Yeah.
We'll end in like 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just have two things to say. Elon has 11 kids. He definitely doesn't know how to pull out, bro. He can't pull out.
About to say that.
He's terrible at pulling out. Number two, there's a
He's
saying
never
from
finished on a
Batman.
stomach at all his whole life.
There's
That should be a
there's
reverse super chat. We should pay that guy. Like that was good. Throw him $5 in the tip jar.
there's one saying that I think everyone should remember. Either you die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And I think Elon, this villain arc has just started. Have a good one, guys.
All right.
Look,
All right,
the
I'm also
bottom
gonna go.
line
You guys can talk, but yes,
All right,
Elon
Steven
should
Tyler.
absolutely stay. That's my last word. Just because he will make us richer. Bottom line. All right.
All right. See you later.
Larry Valley. Yeah, I mean, look, Amit, the bottom line is if you care about your capital invested in Tesla, I'm not talking about giving him more equity monetarily. I'm talking about just making sure that this guy feels secure, that he has enough influence to get the job done. Because if he's not there, this company is not going to do what any of us think it's going to
I
do.
agree. I agree 100%.
It gets
And-
cut in half tomorrow.
It gets cut in
Tomorrow.
It was $100 stock
Tomorrow.
tomorrow if
I
he
agree.
leaves that company.
And look,
I would
the
sell
big-
my shares if Elon left tomorrow. I would
Look,
sell.
I don't know. I would definitely. I would. It would not be the weight it is in my portfolio if it wasn't for that guy.
Amit, the biggest threat is Elon taking on outside money. One of the worst things that ever happened was them not figuring out a way to have SpaceX be a subsidiary of Tesla and Tesla shareholders benefit. You do not want to see that again with an AI company, because
But
this is a guy that can go
why.
anywhere.
He gave his reasons why. He said and it's solely because of the Mars mission. He said he did not want to have the pressure of Wall Street returns and having, in other words, having to do things in the company to appease shareholders that would prevent them from focusing solely on the mission to get to Mars.
I get that. My fear would be him going out and getting outside capital and doing everything AI on a separate company.
Yeah.
It's a very big concern. I mean, this is something where I was very bearish on the company. I believe in the future. That's why I'm buying shares. And my time horizon is around 10 years. And I'm more than willing to sit on shares and keep adding for 10 years. That goes away the second Elon leaves. Because I don't trust anybody else to bring you to where you want to go, because he has a track record of delivering outrageous things.
By the way, I'm happy he bought Twitter. I 1000% agree. I just think there are shareholders out there that think that's bad, that don't understand the free speech argument, as you're saying, Carlos, and maybe they're a bit more.
They might not understand it, but not all of the people that you save will be happy, and I just think that if you really sit down and you talk to those people, they'll understand the rationale. And all you really have to do is just go back and ask yourself what that platform was like before and how the attacks were starting to ramp up. And
as Joju says, every billionaire needs a media outlet. Elon picked a tech outlet instead of a media outlet, which is why.
No, I mean, arguably, well, it's however you want to call it. It's his version of a media outlet. And if you look at the other ones, the what is it? The Post.
Bezos owns the Washington Post.
Yeah, they're all failing. The traditional media companies, they're all failing. This is the only one that's got any.
It's the only one that has a chance of winning.
Yeah, and look, if you believe what he's saying is the roadmap for Twitter, in 5 years, this is going to be an incredibly different app or incredibly different ecosystem. If the amount of improvements, if the rate of improvements and new features continue,
And it will. In 10 months or in 5 months, we've seen like a trillion new features.
It's a whole different app. I mean, I never really used it before, and it's a whole different app. If they start to incorporate things like payments and their ad model or shopping, like there's a million ways that they could take this app and bring value to the people that are using it there. Increasing the subscriptions, it could be incredibly profitable. And I do feel that he'll find a way, even if it's just helping to control the narrative, that does help. And giving Tesla ambassadors a voice and reach is important for the success of Tesla.
All right, Steve, before we go, what day of the week are we doing our Starbucks episode? Because they had good earnings. What day?
I don't know, maybe Thursday.
We've been waiting to do this.
So like he's doing the scratch in the ear. He's like, "Why are you playing?
There's no way we have Amazon earnings Thursday. There's no way I could do.
Oh, that's right.
Real
Amazon,
quick, just play this because it's Steve. So Elon just tweeted, "Going for a walk with Optimus."
Wow, Steve, you should be getting wet over this right now, right?
Steve's webcam's going to start to rise as he lifts the table.
Come on, Steve. This is your thesis right here.
Boy, right there. This is 10x.
Think about what Elon said. He agreed with that person that there's going to be 1 billion bots by 2040. Okay, 1 billion, not 1 million, 1 billion.
It's a big number.
It's a big number, and in order for a lot of these companies to continue growing, at a certain point, the labor market is going to be the resistance. They're going to bump up against that resistance. We just don't have enough people. We don't have enough educated people or trained people. And that's when you got to start looking at robots. And like we spoke about earlier, there's going to be a guy, I've got to tell you, the guy that I was trying to get on, he's going to come on the guest. That guy that I played some of the videos. I forgot his name. What's his name?
I forgot.
Cern Basher. Yeah. He's great. You should actually be on this one, Steve. He did an entire evaluation model of the Tesla.
I watched some of it.
Did you see that? And then he
Yeah.
said how it would affect like Walmart, Amazon, FedEx, like all those
I
companies.
agree
He would be
100%.
exactly, and it becomes the same argument that people make for Palantir, where once it's proved out in a company and the advantages are so tangible, there becomes a cost to not doing business with them, and now that just becomes the
And you got to expand it because we're just thinking, or I'm not going to paraphrase. Some people may just be thinking about the US. This has implications globally. You start thinking about warehousing, you start thinking about loading and unloading trucks, you start thinking about manufacturing, India, China, Indonesia. I mean, the next 10 years to 20 years, we are going to see such drastic changes that the potential for the bot truly could dwarf the car business.
yeah.
Could truly do it.
And well,
And
Sternbasher's whole thesis is that they're not, this idea of you having a bot in your house folding clothes, that's 20 years away, because all of the orders for the next 10 years are all going to be
on the commercial side.
Yeah,
I don't doubt it.
because it doesn't make sense for them to sell you a bot that is worth $600,000 to Amazon. Leasing.
Agreed.
Just there's no amount that you could pay as an individual person to have that in your house. So
And
that
look, I mean, Carlos, if the bot became, let's just say in 5 years from now or 10 years from now, whatever the date is, who cares? When it becomes available, if the price point is $22,000 and the bot can fold laundry, can do laundry, can clean the kitchen and clean the bathroom, would you buy it?
You know what? You have this bot thesis, Steve. I think you hate doing laundry, dude.
he
Who
does
doesn't? It's the biggest waste of time.
That's the example you use every time.
always. It's always like how
I actually enjoy doing
yeah,
laundry.
Steve, I'm
Now
doing
making
laundry.
life more efficient. You look at everything that humans have done, everything is to become more efficient and get more time back
Yeah.
and have less strain in your life. This is the next evolution of that. A lot of people are going to buy it for those reasons.
Oh, you're right. All right, we got to end it here. We got to end it here.
The real bull case will be the female bot. That's the one I'm going to buy.
That'll be
You're
fun.
going to partner with Fleshlight. It's going to be
That'll be a fun one.
sick. Anyway, all right, guys. Good chat.
See you guys tomorrow. Thank you, everybody, for joining. See you
later.
next time. Good night.
See,